Hello everybody and welcome to your Leo August 2022 reading and forecast. Hi, I'm Nigel Saint James. For those of you who are stopping by for the first time, and as the subscribers know, there are no advertisements during this content, so you get to enjoy the experience fully. And speaking of experience, I've had the great opportunity to do one-on-one personal clairvoyant readings for a number of your Leo sisters and brothers over the course of the last month. And if you would be interested to have a look at, or just out of curiosity have a look at what might be involved, just check out the information that's in the description below. You know how it is. Now, let's see. I hope you're enjoying summer in the Northern Hemisphere, North America, Europe. Everybody in Singapore, hi. India, great to see everyone in India as well. And let's see now what there is in 5 coins. Philippines, of course, Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand, South Africa. In, well, the last 3 are in winter. Everyone has their warm clothing on. Now let's have a look to see 5 cards, shall we? 1 of Swords. Well, that would be the ace, actually, would it not? There's the 6 of Swords. What might this be? Here is the 9 of Cups. That's usually pretty good, isn't it, I think? We'll see what there is in store. There is the Server of Wands, whatever that might be. The Transmitter of Light. Well, we'll have a look to see what's there in a moment. And there is the 8 of Swords. Well, why don't you come now, sit down here next to me. We'll have a good close look at the imagery on these cards together while I do your reading for you. There now, I think you can see those. Let's look at this first card that you drew. The 1 of Swords, and it's got something on there, point of origination. Well, what does that mean, I wonder? Let's have a look at it. Anyway, do you know I'm getting a lot of Aquarius around you at the moment, a lot of Pisces and Capricorn as well. Now let's have a look here at this card. Now, what can we tell from the painting, do you think? Well, in this painting here, it seems to me that a sound wave comes out of a flute. Just as sound organizes patterns manifested in the physical plane, so do your thoughts. And just as sound spirals out from the point of emanation, your thoughts spiral out from the source point. Now the bones, which are in the foreground here, you can see these white things on the ground that are down there. They represent what has passed away. Now you'll see these dark forms inside there, these dark figures. They, I think, are a group of people who sit in council, coming up with new ideas, blowing in the wind, and contemplating how to bring those ideas into form. Now, because you have drawn this card, it is a moment of conception, both in the sense of conceiving new life and in terms of conceptualizing new possibilities. Like the council of people that are there, you will want to contemplate how to bring these possibilities into form. This is a really good time to find your way back to the beginning of your current train of thought and examine its roots. What is important is to examine the foundations underlying the thoughts. Now, you may discover that you are building a house on quicksand when you go through that process. Do you know, this energy can also signify a time when your way of thinking about something is shifting in an important way. Give time to this. How you conceptualize things has a profound effect on your experience. You understand that, don't you? Now, there is another Swords card on that horizontal line. In fact, you've got 3 Swords cards here. We'll deal with this 6 that's first. This fantastic card, which is the central energy and which I'll leave to the end. And let's have a look. Here is the Six of Swords. And what does this say on here? Structures for the journey. Well, structures for the journey. Speaking of structure, I'm drawn here in this painting to this figure here and these snowflakes that are around. Now this figure here has 6 sides to it. These snowflakes have 6 sides to it. 6 is the sacred number, mystically, I associate. And by the way, 6 is the number of sides of the molecules that make up wood in trees and plant life. 6 is really one of the foundations of nature itself. And mystically, I have an association in the number 6 with Christ consciousness and with Krishna consciousness. In both those cases, the divine came into humanity in the person of Christ and in the person of the Lord Krishna. Now, I think that the astrology might help us something here. I see this in this position, which is above the 8 of Swords and across from the 1 of Swords. I think what we have here is Mercury ruling the 2nd decan of Aquarius, which is the 30th of January to the 9th of February. Well, here, the air planet of Mercury finds itself in the fixed sign of air, which is Aquarius. Now, the other thing is this, is that Mercury happens to be exalted in Aquarius, which is really good, but it also highlights the intellectual qualities of this energy. Now, Aquarius is the fixed sign of air, and it can appear to be detached and intellectual by nature, can't it? And I think that Mercury also has the ability to analyze things. So these things together, Mercury and Aquarius, bring a clear perspective going forward to you. And this astrology suggests that a somewhat detached but balanced assessment of a situation is needed. This, for me, is the Lord of earned success. You have the ability to analyze, to unify ideas. You'll have an all-encompassing vision, an all-embracing understanding and objectivity. But you do need to analyze something without bias and without too much emotion in order to get the best result. Do you know, Aquarius is also the sign of innovation and originality. And so this can also, I think, represent the situation where you are able to communicate, which is the Mercury aspect of the idea, to communicate ideas that are new, which is Aquarius, and maybe even ideas that are unconventional, but you'll be able to communicate them in an orderly way. Now, I think that this can also refer to a situation that you haven't actually been able to come to grips with yet. Well, now you're starting to, and things are getting better. You are now thinking out a better approach in dealing with the situation. Do you know, you now possess the ability to perceive on different levels and from different perspectives. Your understanding of things unites many different aspects. Ask yourself this: where are and what are the ruts in your life? Where are you stuck? Now trust your insight. Communicate in a way that others will understand, and allow the flower to unfold. And say this to yourself: the flower of recognition blossoms in my heart. Now we should have another look, or a look rather, at this other swords card here. It says equanimity. Well, equanimity, that just means calmness and composure, especially in difficult situations. Let's have a look at it here. Well, what an interesting painting it is indeed. Well, this actually, I think, shows, if you look at this shows an old Islamic pattern of dovetailing forms that represents how expansion and contraction come together to make something. The interior forms each have 8 points in them here, and there are 8 beams of light coming from the center. You see them poking out from that way there. And there is a temple in the hills, and that's under a night sky. And the scene itself has a really restful quality to it, doesn't it? Now, those 8 points, and obviously for the number 8 that you can see there, now I have an association with Mercury here as well with this number 8. So I think analysis and communication, again, is going to be very important. Well, you're going to have the ability to analyze and communicate. These are going to be great strengths of yours during this period. But I will just mention that in sacred geometry, the octagon, that is the 8-sided figure, portrays evenness and stability. Now, in the mental realm, this comes in part from calmness and composure, which provides the stability of not being thrown off center. Now, any stronger judgment or emotional reaction can create a kind of static that interferes with the clarity of perception and the evenness in your mind and emotional body. Now, calmness and composure is the result of not getting caught in these judgments and reactions. It is the evenness that comes when you neither reject nor cling to the various mental and emotional states that arise. Now, this can give rise to a feeling of some sort of a mental contraction associated with this energy here. And that can imply things like fear, resentment, envy, and doubt, because those things all involve a contraction. But if you are sensitive enough, you may notice their effect in your body. Other times, you may recognize contraction only after it has released and you find yourself in a state that is more restful, free, and expansive. Well, I'd like to focus on the acceptance of contraction as part of life, part of your life, and the cultivation of calmness and composure to help you deal with uncomfortable states. Now, calmness and composure are not an enforced evenness created by flattening out your emotions. No, far from it. Nor are they the blurring of your perceptions. With calmness and composure, you are aware of your internal distress, but you don't react to it as much because you have an evenness inside. Now, practicing calmness and composure doesn't mean that you never get ruffled. You can be totally triggered by an event and yet handle that turmoil with calmness and composure. By feeling your response moment to moment and letting it go, you can put space around it and not get so caught up in the content. It is this breathing room that allows you to avoid reacting automatically and lets you decide what action is the most skillful in any situation that presents itself to you. Now let's have a look over here at this Server of Wands. And the heading is saying Transmitter of Light. Transmitter of Light. Well, I know here, let me have a look. Now, the Indian members of the audience will understand what a deva is. Not a diva, but a deva. A deva is a being of light, almost like an angel in a sense. But let's look at the picture itself, because here in this painting, a butterfly fairy, or deva, looks radiant and expansive, as she, like all of nature, is letting her essence shine. The water in the foreground down here, that represents the purifying capacity of those who can consciously transform consciousness. Do you know, devas are great reminders of the interconnectedness of life. Although they can deal with the world of form, of matter, they are not limited to it, but operate from a more collective consciousness. They are, after all, in the spiritual realm, centers of consciousness. Now, within this larger sea of consciousness, everything you say, do, or feel has an effect, whether cutting off others in traffic or bringing a smile to someone's face. Now, this butterfly fairy encourages you to bring a light and loving energy to the world by bringing this energy into your everyday interactions and life. In a sense, this energy here is about helping. This energy is a reminder that you not only assist other people physically, emotionally, and mentally, but you can also assist other people spiritually. Now, this is primarily a matter of the consciousness you cultivate. By being in your light, this supports others' light and helps raise the overall vibration. It is another way of tending to the planet. Now, just as the butterfly goes from flower to flower, spreading pollen, you collect and spread energy during each interaction you experience in every day. That might be grumpy energy, frustrated energy, light and happy energy, or the energy of generosity or kindness. I think this card invites you to become more aware of your energy field and what you spread around. It represents taking responsibility for broadcasting energy that may be helpful and containing or neutralizing energy that may have a more poisonous effect. You can reinforce the positive energy of others by mirroring it and help neutralize their negativity by holding it with such spaciousness and compassion that the energy can let go and just drift away. Now that takes us finally, I think, doesn't it? It is finally, isn't it? Yes, to this central energy of the Nine of Cups here. What does it say? Mental detour. A mental detour. What on earth might it be meant by that? Well, let's have a look. Let's see here, shall we? Well, the first thing it seems to me in this painting is that there is a woman who stands alone and she is looking off in the distance, caught up in her thoughts, unaware of the energy in her body, which is, if you like, cut off at the neck. You see how I see this thing coming down here, almost cutting her head off, really. So although emotions are churning within, she doesn't let herself feel them. Now, you will notice that there are those people about who are very intellectual and do intellectualize things. They can sometimes talk a good game, even being quite articulate about emotions themselves. They just don't feel them, though. That's the thing. Now, when relying heavily on that strategy, these people become a talking head, cut off not just from emotions, but from the rest of their body. The intellect can, you must be aware, become your only organ of perception in such situations. Now, this intellectualizing of things rather than feeling them, that is a strategy that finds a fair amount of support in our industrial and high-tech culture today, which tends to have a lot of respect for people of high intellect or people who are involved in information technology. Well, in using that strategy of intellectualizing things, the mind is sort of used as a shield, as something to hide behind. It gives a false sense of power and control. To use thinking to escape feeling is usually not a conscious choice, but rather a learned defense that is, like so many things, the product of a childhood environment where feelings were not honored. Your parents may have been cut off from their feelings, or feelings were expressed only in destructive ways. As a child, you may have been shamed for having feelings, or your sensitivity may have been exploited. And since males are granted even less permission to show feelings than females, this is more particularly common in men. Look, this card and energy around it, I think here, is telling you that it is time to get out of your head and open up to your feelings more. And I mean that with great respect to you, by the way. Now, you may not see yourself as someone who uses intellectualizing as a defensive strategy, but look, we all do this at times. It doesn't necessarily mean being intellectual, the ordinary thinking and ruminating about things, or planning, or any mental activity can serve as well. You are simply detoured. This mental detour thing here, I suppose. Detoured from your feelings. Perhaps not even noticing what has happened. But the good news is that there is a very, very good astrology around this card here, this month for you. This is the Lord of material happiness, and it is Jupiter ruling the second decan of Pisces, that 1st to the 9th of March. Now, Jupiter rules Pisces, so there's a very strong complementary energy here. And Jupiter's philosophical approach aligns well with Pisces' spirituality. Jupiter also brings good luck and happiness. And Jupiter's softer concerns, such as care, compassion, and the spiritual life, they are beautifully expressed through sensitive Pisces. There is an enormous capacity to love, although, as so often is the case with this gift, this is often hard won through lots of difficult times in the past. But I see bliss here for you now, overflowing love, deep joy, blessings. You have the fulfillment of the goal of love, wishes granted, abundance and reward for your efforts. This is a very bright time and signifies a bright future. The influence of Jupiter in the sign of Pisces creates more than just a feeling of mere sympathy. A great sense of blessedness arises from total joy. The quality of this joy shows that it is deeply rooted at the moment. It is not the result of some superficial pleasure. It speaks of a bliss which derives its energy from the deepest reaches of a soul at peace. Well, what a fantastic set of cards for you. Well done, you. That's the way it is for this one. What a fascinating reading. I'm sure you will agree. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed providing it to you. I really look forward to doing your reading each month, you know. I really do. Truly I do. And, you know, I send you some good energy, the subscribers, throughout the month, which you will feel from time to time. So don't worry, I'm always thinking of you. You are never alone. Now, until I see you again, remember one thing, and one thing is this, that you are a legend, and I look forward to seeing you again next month. And until then, it's bye for now.